All right, so welcome back, everyone. So today we are going to build this website. Yeah, we have been saying we'll build this website, and we are going to build it step by step till we finish all this website. We might also rush some parts, but don't worry, you are going to understand. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is we are going to link our font awesome. Remember, font awesome are for icons, and over here we have what our icon linked already. Now let's get started. For me to create this, I'm going to use a semantic tag called the header. The header is going to specify that this part I'm about to create belongs to the head. Now, this part is divided into two. We have this part for the logo and we have this part for all the link. For me to do that, I'm going to create a div for my logo. So I can just give that a class of logo. Then also, I'm going to create a nav for my link. Now, this nav, remember we talked about the nav that it is navigation bar that takes us to any part of it. Now, over here inside my logo, I can write anything inside my logo. For now, I'm just going to use the h3 tag. And in my logo, we have some things. We have this thunder lightning. We have this way now skill. All right. So for us to do something like that, I'm just going to come here and search for the name of the icon. So let's check for the name of the icon. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say font or some free icons. Remember how we got here in the first place. So while it loads, let's wait for it to load. All right. Now over here, I can just search for any icon of my choice. So let me just look for an icon of lightning. So let me just use this for instance. And all I'm just going to do is what click on that icon and it's going to pop up that icon for me with the link I'm going to use. So let's wait for it. All right, so over here I'm just going to click and I've copied it. So inside my h3 here, I'm going to paste that icon. Then after that, I'm going to write the name way. Then what now? Then remember, for me to style my text in a different way, still on the same line, I'm just going to use the span to wrap it. Now, the reason why I'm using span to wrap this is because I want to style this separately. Now, my span is just going to have a class of, let's just say, purple color over here. Now, the next thing I'll need to create is the UL. For me to create something like this, I'm going to need to use a list because so that it's just going to look a little bit nicer, and that is how things have been done. So I'm going to create a UL over here. So UL, then inside I'm going to create LI. Inside each LI, I'm going to create an A tag. So currently my A tag is just features, demo, benefit, and other now. So let's see that features, sorry, demo, benefits, and what other now. Now currently my order now over here can have a class of, let's just call it btn dash order. Sorry. So we are going to style it differently. All right. Now let's continue. The next thing we need to do is come to our CSS. The first thing we always do in our CSS whenever you are styling, you should always remember is to use the asterisk, set the margin to 0, set the padding to 0, and set what we call box sizing. Sorry. So I'm just going to set the box sizing to what we call border box. That is always the first thing we should always do on our website. Now I'm going to be viewing this on a large scale so that we are going to see how it's going to look like on a large screen. Now the next thing we need to do is target this header. I'm going to come here and I'm going to, before targeting the header, let me change the font family. Over here I'm just going to say font family should be Arial because I want some kind of cool fonts over here. Now I'm going to target the header. I'm going to say header. I want to display anything inside my header as flex. Remember, the display of flex is going to display everything inside my header to be on the same side. The next thing I'll need to do is what? Justify content. Instead of space between, I'm going to use space around. And the last thing I'm going to use is the align items, and I'm going to set it to center. Now basically if we come here and I refresh, we would have something like this. Okay, now the next part we need to do is also bring all this to the same line. But before bringing all this to the same line, I'll need to change the color of this scale to some kind of purple color. So I'm going to come here, and my way now scale is styled in the purple color. So over here I'm just going to say inside my header we have a class of purple color. I want the color to be something like a purple. So over here I can just search for color picker. So my color picker, I'm going to come here and pick any color of my choice. Then over here I'm just going to copy that. Now basically we have this. I think that is too deep. It should be a little bit lighter. It's too light. Alright, let's just use this color for instance. Just for instance. Now over here we just have what? Way now scale. Just like we have over here. Way now scale. That's the same thing we are going to have over here. The next thing is to style all this list over here. For me to style all those lists over here, I'm going to come back to my CSS and I'm going to say inside my header under the nav we have a UL. The UL is what is making it have those type of lists. I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say my list style should be set to none. The next thing is to also bring everything to be on the same line. So I'm just going to come here and say display or flex. Now I'm going to style each of the a tag. I'm going to say under the header nav UL LIA. The first thing we need to do to each of the a tag is to remove the text decoration. The text decoration refers to the underline that are under each of the a tag, and I'm just going to set it to none. The next thing is that I'm going to set the color to black. Now if we come back here to our website, we are going to see all these elements on a straight line. The next thing I'll need to do is also display each of the elements as blocks so they are going to stand independently, and give it some inner spacing for 10 pixel and 20 pixel. And if we come here, we are going to have something like this. The next thing I'll need to do is inside this my header, I'm going to give it some inner spacing, and I'm going to say also I'll need to, okay, for now let's leave that. Now if we come back here to our website, we just have some inner space. Now if we come here, our order now has a different background than the rest of them. So in our HTML here, our order now has a class of btn order. So for me to style it, I'm just going to say under the header, remember this is a parent element, we have a nav. Then under the nav we have a UL. Under the UL we have what we call btn order. I want the background color to be the same color I gave this over here. So I'm just going to come here and paste that background color. And also I also want the color to be white, just like what we have over here. Now if you come back here to our first project and refresh, we have this. The next thing was that they make it a little bit round, so let's also make ours a little bit round. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say border dash radius, and my border radius should be something like 5 pixels. Now if we were to refresh over here, we just have something like this. The next thing we need to do is that we are going to need to give each of our a tag a margin from the right. So I want to give each of my a tag margin right of 10 pixels. So basically we just have something like this, and inside there I'm going to change my space around to be space between, and also I'm going to give it padding from the left and right of 50 pixels. And if you come here, we have something like this. You can increase the padding if you want. I can say I want the padding to be 100 pixels, so we are going to have something like this. So over here we see whenever we hover on this, we are having some kind of color. So what are we going to do? We are going to come here and we are going to see that inside my header nav ULNI, we have an A. Whenever we hover on it, I want to change the color to be this color. And before we move on, we need to give our a tag a transition of some certain second. So whatsoever style we are giving to it is going to take some certain seconds. Now if you come here and I over on each of them, we are going to see something like that. But if you over on this also, you see it's also doing the same thing. So what we can simply do is that we are going to say that even though we over on this our header nav ul.btn order, it should still have the same styling like we have. So what we are doing is that we have both styling to be what? The same thing. Now if we come back here to our element and we refresh, we are going to see this is the same, but what? These are having different stuff. We are done with our header. Let's move on to the next part, which is this part. In this part, we have this that says that stock okay, we have this that says stock alert 215 pieces left or whatsoever. So let's move on. In our HTML here, I'm just going to create a section. So over here, I'm just going to create a section. My section can have a class and we are just going to call it the hero. So inside my section, we have two parts. We have a div for the left part. So I'm just going to give this a class of left, and we also have a div for the right. So I'm just going to give this for the right. Now inside the div of the left is only what contains this text over here. So I'm just going to come here, create a span, and I'm going to say that a class of flash card. You can call it anything, but I'm just going to call it a flashcard. Now this icon is on your laptop. You can look for the icon anytime you want. In fact, okay, let's move on. The next part is this h1. In my h1 over here, we have some content that says more than just a weighing whatsoever. So I'm just going to come here and paste that inside. Now this is just going to have a class of, let's just call it way. Now the reason why the color is red is because of our JavaScript. So you come to your JavaScript and delete whatsoever we are having there. So the next thing we need to do is this all your this all your all-in-one health partner is going to be wrapped in a span. So I'm just going to wrap my all-in-one health partner in a span. Why? Because I also want to style it differently. Now the next thing we have here is just a paragraph that says track your record or any other thing we have here. So I'm just going to come here and paste that. And the last thing is that we have two buttons over here. we have this button that says click here to order now with a left arrow, and we have this one that says watch demo with a play button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div for both of them. So I can just simply reduce this, and I'm going to say sorry for that. I'm just going to come here and create a div. Now my div is going to have a class of btns. That means we have what, two buttons inside of it. Now for our buttons, we have two type of button. The first button tells us that click here to order now. So I'm just going to write it inside this button, click here to order now. And also our button is going to have the I tag for our icon with a class of fa font awesome arrow right. All right, and also we have another button here that is telling us that what, watch demo. So over here I'm just going to say watch demo, and here both of them can have different classes. Like, okay, I'm sorry for that. All right, now this is going to have a class of purple btn, and this is going to have a class of white btn. So anyhow you want it to be, but this is it, and I'm just going to change this to play. Now if we come back to our project here and we refresh, we just have this. Now in the left side, inside this right side, I'm just going to put my image, img, and the src. You can search for any image of your choice, image of a tech girl or whatever you want. You can search it on your Google. Remember I told you that we can just use any image of our choice. So over here I'm just going to find a very dark and beautiful image and copy the image. So over here I'm just going to copy image address, then come back here to our website and we're going to paste that. So I guess the image should be there. Okay, the image is there already, and I'm just going to say image of a tech girl. All right, now we are done with the html aspect of this our website. Let's move on to the css aspect. The first thing is to get the color of that gray stuff. So over here I'm just going to look for this color and copy it. All right, now in my css, the first thing is that we would style the hero section. So I'm going to come here inside my css, and I'm going to say I want to style the hero section. What I want to do to the hero section, I want to give it this background color. I want to give it some padding of maybe 30 pixels, and currently if I refresh over here, we have something like this. We are getting there. The next part is this our stock. We will need to divide these two first, and for us to divide these two, we just need to say we want to display both as flex, and if you come here and you refresh, we have these two div as flex. Now for us to each of these two divs, the left and the right, we need to give them their own certain width, because whenever we justify the content to the center and align the items to the center, they should also have their own width. So I'm just going to say, and I'm just going to say hero dot left, and also hero dot right. I want them, or not hero dot right, sorry, my bad. The hero dot left, I want it to have a width of 70%. That means 70% of the div. And all the hero dot right, I just want it to have a weight of 30%. That means these two are sharing 100% weight. We refresh here, you see that what they are both sharing 100% weight. Now let's continue. All right, so let's change this to something like 60%. So all right, so we have something like that. All right, let's start this our flashcard first. Over here it has the class of flashcard, so I'm going to come here and I'm going to say under my hero, under the left we have something of flashcard. Now we want the background color of our flashcard to be like that green, so I'm going to come here to my color picker and I'm just going to pick a kind of greenish color. So I'm just Ctrl C and come back here and paste that. Now if we come back here to our website over here and we refresh, we have something like this. We also want some little padding, so I'm just going to say padding maybe 10 pixels, and if we come back here we'd have something like this. The last thing we need to do is what, round it a little bit. I'm just going to say border radius, and I just want it to be something like 10 pixel. This for top and bottom. All right, now if you come here and we refresh, you just have something like this. Now the next thing we need to do is just give it some margin from the bottom and make the animation work. So I'm just going to say margin bottom 10 pixel, and over here I'm just going to say animation, let's just say fade in out. That's the name of the animation. It's going to take in for 1 second. The iteration count is going to be infinite. So this is just the shortcut of what we are going to do. It's fading, it's going to take in for 1 second, and the iteration count is infinite. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say at keyframes, the name of my animation, which is this. Whenever you get to 50% of the animation, I want you to do opacity to be 0. Let's just see 0.2. Now if you come back here to our website, we are going to have something like this, 0.2. All right, so we can also set the timing function to be ease in out, so it's going to look a little bit smoother also. So we have something like this. All right, now the next thing we need to do is this our much more whatsoever. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say inside my hero left we have an h1. The first thing is to increase the size, so I'm just going to say I want to increase the size to be 40 pixels, or let's make it more than just 40 pixels, like something like 80 pixel. Okay, it's too much. Like let's make it 60 pixels. All right, I'll still need to reduce the width, but let's continue for now. 60 pixel, and also we'll also make the font weight bolder. So I'm just going to say I want my font weight to be much more bold. All right, so over here I'm just going to reduce the width here to something like 50%, so it will not be too much. In fact, both of them are supposed to be, this one is supposed to be the 40%, while this is going to be like the 50% here. Yeah, something like that. Okay, now let's also change the color of that span. So I'm just going to say under the arrow, under the left, under the h1 we have a span. I want to change the color, so over here the color should just be this color we used over here. So I'm just going to come here and say I want the color to be this. Now if we refresh over here, we have this color. Okay, let me change this to something like 45. Okay, so more than just a weighing whatsoever. The next thing is also our this thing is too big. Forty pixel, and over here the font size kind of big also. All right, so let's increase this our paragraph. I'm going to say that under our hero section, under our left, we have a paragraph. I want the color to be something like a grayish color, and I also want the font size to be something like maybe 20 pixels. So it's going to be a little bit bigger. The next thing is that I want the margin to be 0 from to be sorry 15 pixel from the top and bottom, and 0 from the left and right. So we are going to have something like that. Okay, so let's look for a dark gray color first. All right, let me choose a color here that is like a dark gray. So I'm just going to replace this with that color. Then if you come here, okay, we have something like that. Now let's style these two buttons. The first button is the purple button, and the second one is the white button. So I'll first of all style the two buttons. I'm going to say inside the arrow, inside the left, we have a div that is called btns, and under it we have what buttons. We want some things in common, like the padding should be the same thing, like also the font size should be the same thing. Now if I come here and I refresh, we have these two stuff. Now let's change the color. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say that under my arrow, under my left, under the btns, we have a button with the class of purple btn. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say class of purple btn. I want the background color to be this background color over here, and I want the color to be white. So if we come back here to our website, we have this. We also need to remove the border and also round the border a little bit to be something like 5 pixels. So if you come back here to our website, we have something like this. Let's also style this the same way. I'm just going to copy this styling and paste it down here for the what white btn, but instead of that, this is going to change. This is going to be white. All right, now if you come back here, we would have something like this. All right, so I think this also have a little bit of shadow, so I'm just going to say box shadow 0 pixel 0 pixel 3 pixel gray. So we just have some kind of gray stuff. Now let's take care of this image. It's taking a whole lot of space, so the image is under the right. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say under the arrow, under the right, I have an image. And what do you want the image to do? I just want the image to take the width of 100%, the height of 100%, and there's what we call object fit. We set it to cover so that our image is not going to stretch itself. And over here where we set the right, we are going to also give our right some certain height of maybe 400 pixel. We're also going to set the overflow to be hidden, and also we are going to round the borders by saying border radius should be something like 10 pixels. Now if we come back here, we would have something like this. Now the next thing is that we just need to increase the height of our arrow over here. So over here, I'm just going to say the height of my arrow should just be maybe 80 viewport height. Now if we come here, we are done with this aspect of our image. All right, so if we over on this image, we are going to realize that the image is increasing in size. So I'm just going to come here. The first thing is that I'm going to give my transition of maybe 0.5 seconds to my image, and I'm just going to say under my arrow, under my right, my image, whenever I hover on it, I want to transform scale to just be 1.1, and that's all. Now if we come back here and we refresh over here, let's try that out. Okay, sorry, my bad. Right over. So if you hover on this, we have something like this. Okay, now let's just give them a little bit of space in between each other. So over here, the right should just have a margin from the right of maybe 40 pixels, or let's use it as 70 pixels. All right, and also I'll need to reduce the size of my image. Okay, now we are done with this. The next part we need to build, or before we are done, before we move on, we need to change this white button here and give it a margin from the left of maybe 10 pixel, and also make this one something like a light gray stuff. All right, so we are done with all this part. The next part we want to build now is this part over here that says why it's more than a scale. So I'm just going to come here to my HTML, and I'm going to come down here, create a section. Now my section can just have a class of y, then inside my y is a blah blah blah. We will have an h1 that is just going to tell us something like why is it more than a scale, and this one that says it is because it is any other thing we have there. So I'm just going to paste these two inside. Now these two are going to be inside a div, and that div is just going to have a class of top. So this class of top is going to contain these two stuffs over here. All right, now let's move on. The next thing is that we have each card. Under each card we have an icon, the name, and under we also have something like this. So let's start each of the card. I'm going to come here and I'm going to create a div with the class of cards, and also I'm going to create another div with the class of card. Now inside here we are going to create two parts, one part for this top and another part for this bottom. All right, so let's look for a smile icon over here. Just going to come here and say smile. Okay, let's use this smile icon, face smile. Just going to copy the code. Now over here I'm just going to create a top for my card. So div with the class of card top. Then inside my card top we have some pretty much stuff. The first thing is that icon of the smile, and also the name of that stuff, which is baby mode. So I'm just going to come here and create a span of what, baby mode. And also we can just copy and create the card bottom. So I'm just going to come here and say I want to create the card bottom here. Then for the card bottom we are just going to paste whatsoever we have here inside our card bottom. Alright, so this is each of the card over here. So to save time, I'm just going to copy this card and paste it 4 more times. Oh, sorry, my bad. Alright, that's just it. I've copied that card and I've pasted it 4 more times. Now if we come back here, we just have something like this, nothing much. Now let's start. We'll come here to our CSS. We want to style the Y. So you say that what this Y, we want it to have some padding of maybe 40 pixels. And also the next part is that the Y has a top. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say under my Y we have a top. We want to bring everything to be at the center. So basically if we come back here, we have solved this part over here. So let's also make the paragraph a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say under the Y, under the top, we have a paragraph. I want the font size to be a little bit bigger. So we just have something like this. And also our top should have some margin from the bottom of maybe 30 pixels. So we are just going to have space between all of them. Now the next part is to style each of the cards under the card. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say under the .y, under the cards, we have what each of the card. Now each of our card is going to take a weight of at least 48% out of the current width, and also they are going to have some little bit of padding, and also they are going to have some radius of maybe 20 pixel, and also they are going to have some box shadow of maybe 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 4 pixel, and let's use 6 pixel. Then the color of our choice. So I also want this color over here, but let's make a lighter color. So just going to copy this and I'm just going to paste it. Now if we come here and we refresh, we have each of these elements over here. Now I want to style my cards and I want to paste anything inside. So I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to say, sorry, my bad. Give me a minute. Alright, I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say I want to display this card as flex. So over here I'm just going to say display the card as flex, justify the content as space evenly. So I can easily justify the content as space evenly. Alright, so currently if we come back here to our website, we would have something like this. And also we can say that we want to use what we call flex wrap to be wrap, so that in case if nothing is containing that part, we will just need to reduce it. Now each of the card are just going to have some space from the bottom of maybe 10 or let's say 20 pixels. Alright, so something like this. And the next thing we need to do is to reduce the width of this card. So I'm just going to say the width of my card is just going to be 80%, and also the margin for the top and bottom and left and right should be 10 pixels and auto. So we have something like this. Let's style each of these a tag and anything inside. So inside each of the cards we have the card top. So I'm just going to come here, card top, come here, and I'm going to say under the Y, under the cards, under the card, we have what? Card top. What do you want to do to it? You just want the card top to have some little bit of padding, um, and also we want to give it some kind of weight to be a little bit bold. So if you come back here, we would have something like this. So each of the I under my dot card dot card dot card top, right? So each of these we are going to create the color. We are going to use this color over here for it. So I'm just going to give it this color, and also the background color is going to be something lighter. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm just going to paste it here, and also some little bit of padding of maybe 5 pixels. Now if I come back here and I refresh, we would have something like this. Sorry, is the eye. So if I refresh, we would have this eye. So what we are going to do is that our eye, each of our eye, they are meant to be in a span of, let's just call it a span. So each of our eye is meant to be in a span, and let's just call it an icon span. So basically that's what I'm going to do for all of them. So I'm just going to be fast about this. Alright, so I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to say for each of the icon. So we have this. Alright, let's increase the padding for the top and bottom to be something like 7 pixels. Okay, now the card top would also have something like a margin for the top and bottom and for the left and right. So we just have something like this. Now we need to increase the font size of each of our elements. So I'm going to come here. I will first of all decrease this to, and also the color. The color should be a little bit lighter. Okay, so it won't look weird. All right. Okay, so we just have something like this, or let me make the color a little bit like that. Okay, so we have something like this. The next thing we need to do is change the colors of our p tag. So we are going to say under our y, under our cards, under our card, we have a paragraph. So what do we want to do for our paragraph? We want to increase the font size of our paragraph, and we also want the color to change. So I want to use this type of deep color or this color over here. So I'm just going to come here and dot paste it. Now basically if I come here and this is our own, increase the font size. Okay, so let's check. Okay, they are under the div of card bottom. Sorry, my bad. So is under the div of card button. So we just have something like this. Now whenever we hover, they are going to come with a border, and the box shadow is going to increase a little bit. So I'm just going to come here. The first thing I'll give this is that my card is going to have some transition. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say under my Y, under my cards, each of the card, whenever I hover on it, I want to give it some border of 1 pixel solid, then the color that I want, so I can just use this color over here. And also I want to increase my box shadow to have more box shadow. So I'm just going to come here, increase the bottom to something like 4 and something like 8. So let's try this out first. If I refresh, oh my bad, refresh over here, if I hover on this, we'll have something like this, but it's too fast. So I'm just going to come here to my card. This is my card, transition 0.5. Let's just use 0.8 seconds. So we have something like this. Now the last thing we just need to do is that we need to transform it a little bit. So I'm just going to say transform, translate, in the x-axis. What did I want to do? I want to increase it a little bit. So I'm just going to say something like maybe 10 pixels. If I come here and I refresh, okay, not in the x-axis, it's going to be in the y-axis, and it's going to be minus 10 pixels. So if I come here and I refresh, we're going to have something like this. All right, so we are done with this aspect already. Now we have lots of them to cover, but for today we are going to end in this part over here, and I'm going to make you figure out the rest. So we have a paid internship where we are going to hold you step by step and hold you like a baby in building different types of websites specifically. All right, so if you are interested, you can come here in the live stream and cover and comment and ask us to add you to the stream. So basically we have a premium class that is going to teach you much more in depth into it. But for now, we are not going to finish specifically all these websites. We're just going to stop here, over here. All right, so this is where we are going to stop. So let's move on. So over here we are done with this section. I'm just going to come here and create a new section, and that section can just have a class of vids. All right, now this vid section over here is just the section that will contain something like this. Okay, so it's going to contain both this h1. So over here I'm just going to create a div with the class of vid top, and inside it we are just going to have an h1 that is going to have this, and also a little bit of paragraph that is going to have this. So I'm just going to create that paragraph and I'm going to put it over there. Now let's style our video, the vid itself. So basically we can make these vids have the same styling as our Y. So I'm just going to come here and say that I want my dot vids to have the same styling, but our dot vids just have a little bit of a kind of background. So over here I'm just going to create some kind of light gray background over here, and I'm just going to say background color this. All right, Now the next thing is that also our vid top also have the same styling as our white top. So I'm just going to come here and say vid top should also have the same styling of our white top. Now if I come back here, we would have something like this. So let's look for a video and embed it. I'm going to come here to my YouTube channel and I'm just going to search for, let's just use this video. So copy embed code and I'm going to come here to my HTML. After my vid top, I'm going to create a div and my div is just going to have a class of video itself. So inside there, I can just simply paste my iframe. So if I come back here to my website and I refresh, we have this iframe over here. Okay, let's just leave the iframe. Don't let us make it play. So let's style this video itself in our CSS. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say .vid .video itself. I want it to have a width of maybe 80% or so. I also want it to have something like an height of maybe 400 pixels or something. Or let's leave the height for now. Or let's add the height. So the height is going to be something like a 500 pixel. So please let's have a break for now. We are going to come back. Alright, so welcome back. My bad for that. Okay, so I'm just going to increase this to something like a 600 pixel. The next thing I'll need to do is that under my vids, I'm going to have my video itself. I think I copy that. Then under my video itself, I'm going to target my iframes. Okay, iframe. Now I want my iframe to have a width of 100% and also an height of 100%. Now over here, I'm just going to set it to be important so that it's going to override any other styling that we have. So over here, I'll come here and say I want to set the margin for the top and bottom and for the left and right. Now if we come back here to our website and I refresh, we would have this big video over here. So let me just search for a video here, or let's use this video. Just going to copy the embed code, come back to our stuff over here and just paste it. Now if we refresh, we are going to have this video. I don't know why everything is not working, but the video is supposed to work. Okay, now the last part we just need to have is this button that says click here to order now. So the button that is telling us that click here to order now. So I'm just going to come down here and create a div for my btn. So I'm just going to say div in the class of btn, then under it I'm just going to create my button that says what, click here to order now. Now under that I'm just going to create an I tag with the class of FA shopping basket. All right, so let's just use shopping basket for that. And if you come here and we refresh, we would have this. So let's also style it. Since this styling is going to be the same styling as this, I'm just going to merge them together. So I'm just going to come here to my CSS and look for my YBTM purple, and I'm just going to say I want to add this button to it. Now if I come back here, we would have okay, something like that. Okay, so let's also style it. I'm also going to add it to be this also, and also we can give this a margin from the top of maybe 15 pixels. So if you come here, we have something like this. Now let's move this to the center. For me to move it, I can just easily use a quick style here and say margin for the top and bottom and what left and right. So if you come here and we refresh, okay, all right. So and also our btn here, let me style our btn. I'm going to say the width dot btn. I want the text align to be centered. Now if I come here to my website and I refresh, we are going to see this thing is at the center. So basically we have gotten to some point of the website. Now the next part we just need to build is this that says who is this for, currently something like this, and also this part that says accuracy. All right, and yeah, basically we are not going to finish all the websites, but we are going to build it to a tangible place that would make you confident that you can build a website. Okay, so let's move on. Over here, I'm just going to create a section for what who, let's just call it who. So my section is just going to have a class of who. Then under my section with the class of who, we can also have something like this under my section, but it's not going to be a vid top, it's just going to be something like who top. Now for me to style the who, I can tag it together with this. I'm just going to say who over here. Then also this my who top, I'm just going to say dot who top. Now if we come back here to our website, we are going to have basically um sorry, okay, my bad, woo. All right, now if you come back here, you just have this simple styling. Now let's also create boxes, 4 different boxes. That's this one that says super mom and the other ones. So under here, I'm just going to create, okay, so let me just give it space. All right, now over here I'm just going to create a div, and that div is just going to have a class of cards also. Then under that div we are just going to have another div with the class of card. Now inside this class of card, we can just have maybe a paragraph that is going to contain the icon I sorry icon. We are going to use art, so I'm just going to say that FA art. So I think it's a regular stuff. Now if we come back here to our website, we would have this AFA art over here. the next thing is that you would create another h6 that is going to tell us something like what? Super moms. So over here, just going to paste my super moms there. Then the last part that we are going to create is this paragraph that is telling us this. So I'm just going to change this from h6 to h5. Let's see h5 first of all. If I come here and I refresh, h5 is too small. Let's use h3 and let's refresh. Alright, h3 is okay. The last thing is another paragraph here, and my paragraph is just going to have this. Now we're just going to change the color from this inline styling here, and we're going to make it some kind of this type of color. So I'm just going to come here and say I want the color to be this, and also I want the font size to be 20 pixels. So we have solved one part of it. The next part is that I'm just going to need to duplicate each of these cards 4 more times. No need to change the content inside. We already have those content, so we don't need to change those contents inside of it. So I'm just going to come here and paste it. So I'm just going to come here, Ctrl C, Ctrl V to paste. Come down here and paste it again, Ctrl V, and then last Ctrl V to paste. So let's just click on enter. Alright, now let's move on. I'm going to style each of the cards under the woo. I'm going to say under the dot woo, under the cards, we want to just display the cards as flex. So what we can just do is that we can merge these two together, dot woo dot cards, but our dot woo dot card is going to have a flex wrap of no wrap, so it's not going to wrap itself. So if we come back here, we have this first stuff over here. The next thing is that our dot woo dot cards dot card, they are going to have some certain things, like for instance padding should maybe 20 pixel, the background color should be something like this type of gray. Then the text align should be center, and the width over here should be, let's just say 30%. So let's check that out. If I come here and I refresh, we would have each of this. So each of them should also have a margin for the top and bottom, and also for the left and right. So if we come here, we would have something like this. So let's change the color to look a little bit nicer. So I want to use this color over here. Now if we come back here, we can just have something like this. Now the next thing we need to do is inside the card, let's start with the P. Alright, the P. Okay, so give me some minutes. We are going to be right back. All right, so we are going to stop here for now, but let's just increase the size of this our paragraph. Okay, so I'm just going to come here, over here. Each of my paragraph here is just going to have a class of icon. So that's what I'm just going to be doing for all of them. All right, so let's move on. I'm just going to say under the who, under the card, we have this icon. What do we want to do for the icon? We want to increase the font size of the icon to be something like 30 pixels. We also want the color to be something like a purple color. So let's look at that. Okay, so this is the color we want, and we also want margin from the bottom to be maybe 10 pixels. And if we come back here, we can have something like this. Let's also style the other paragraphs also. So I'm just going to come here. All right, we have styled this over here. Okay, we have styled this. Let's just style the h3. So I'm just going to say under the who, under the cards, under each of the card, we have each h3. What do we want to do to it? We just want to give it some margin from the bottom of 15 pixels. Now if we come here and we refresh, we have something like this. So each of these cards, each of the card also should just have something like a border radius of maybe 15 pixels. Now if we come here and we refresh, we have something like this. All right, so we have gone a little bit more far than we were meant to. So this is going to be the end of today's class, on today's lecture, today's live stream. If you are willing to go more in depth, let us know on the comment section, and we are going to create a full HTML and CSS tutorial that is going to teach you much more in depth than we did right here. So thank you for streaming with us. We are going to see you later on. Please, if you are a new subscriber, please do well to subscribe to our channel. That will really help us so much.